How's it going, Summoners? Hope the patch has been treating you well, and more importantly, I'm glad to see you guys again. My name is Nathan Ng, and I'll be your host for our 11.9 mid-patch update. If this is your first time, we always make sure to update our tier list in the middle of the patch and also follow up on some balance changes. Make sure you hit that sub button, and let's go ahead and hop right into the video. First up, let's run through the top lane. One of the changes from this patch was for Dr. Mundo. After some huge buffs for solo lane, Mundo popped off last patch and destroyed the competition in low elo especially. This patch, he was further nerfed after his stat growths were hit slightly. As a result, we're okay leaving him in the A tier. Dr. Mundo is pretty hit or miss right now in high elo, but continues to dominate in lower brackets. After giving him some time, we've decided to move Rumble down the tier list. This patch he received a minor nerf which slightly affected his win rate. This patch we see some big changes play out in the top lane, and unfortunately for Rumble, this minor nerf as well as the changes to the meta have made it even harder for him to come up on top. As a result, he's now down in the B tier. Garen got nerfed this patch. Takes a little bit longer for him to scale up, but he ultimately ends up as strong as before. He's been left virtually untouched, but we moved him down to the S tier to make room for some new picks in the OP tier. One of these said picks is Shen. Yeah, that's right. Shen is broken right now. In high elo specifically, he's been seeing a significant increase in both play rate and win rate. The newly found power in his ultimate has created much more agency for Shen players. While you can't directly carry a game, you're able to provide carries with much more agency. As the game progresses, that gigantic shield becomes more and more valuable. Especially in the late game where the enemies are desperate to dive your carries and take them down before they can dish out damage, Shen's ultimate proves to be a huge nuisance. Shen's laning was already solid, and the fact that he now scales to become both a roadblock and a lifesaver in the late game have pushed him into the OP territory this patch. The next champion who rose up and became a top tier pick is Sett. He received some massive AD ratio buffs, and while we did expect him to get stronger, he exceeded our expectations this patch. Sett has become the most popular pick of this patch and holds a solid win rate in high elo as well as low elo. As a rather straightforward champion, more damage is all it really took for Sett to pop off, and while his ban rates are still rather low, his win rates and high play rate alone signal that he's in a very good spot right now. We move Sett up to the OP tier as he's a solid champion at all ranks. Also, let me ask you the question of the day. What champion are you happy to see more of this patch? It's been a while since I've seen Sett, and it's pretty cool seeing him played more often. Hopefully he'll get a few patches to shine instead of the Yorick treatment where he just gets gutted the very next patch. Let me know your answers in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's continue. For our other changes, Vladimir and Cho'Gath have moved down to the A tier. Vladimir was nerfed and Cho'Gath has fallen off quite a bit, partially due to the type of champions who are currently popular in the top lane. The increased damage found in the top lane makes it harder for Cho'Gath, who relies on surviving initial bursts and healing back up. Since so many other champions can threaten solo kills on Cho'Gath, it's overall much more difficult for him to survive at the moment. Lee Sin has also been added to the S tier. Yeah, you heard that right. Lee Sin is one of the most popular picks in Korean solo queue, and we've been keeping our eye on him. His damage output is up there, and his sustain isn't bad either. While his sustain alone isn't enough to make Lee Sin OP, the fact that he has so much damage built into his other abilities allows him to win many other matchups. 3 of his 4 abilities deal damage, and they all have incredible AD ratios. Numerous jungle buffs have also brought up Lee Sin to the point where he can easily dominate a solo lane as well. Our OP picks in the top lane are Darius, Shen, and Sett, followed up by Lee Sin, Camille, Maokai, Poppy, Riven, Mordekaiser, Fiora, Urgot, Nocturne, Jax, Gnar, Sylas, Malphite, and Garen in the S tier. Now let's run through the jungle. Hecarim is our first for the follow-up. He received a massive nerf, and they were much worse than we expected. His win rate has dropped to around 45% overall, and clearly things have taken a turn for the worse for him. Unfortunately, you can't get away with building full tank anymore, and building more damage makes him more fragile and a less impressive pick. We dropped him all the way down to the C tier following the change. Morgana did meet our expectations, however. In spite of the small nerf to her W, she remains an OP pick. Her ban rate has exceeded 57% this patch, quite incredible considering that the support champion has risen up to dominate the jungle. She remains a solid pick who has a fast clear, great ganks, and noticeable level 6 spike, and incredible scaling. Not only does she do a decent amount of damage, her Black Shield is easily one of the strongest abilities in the game. The fact that Morgana remains a powerful flex pick further only adds to her value as a champion. Diana was also nerfed this patch, and her win rates have dropped considerably. In spite of this, she remains the second most popular high elo jungler, and the third most popular overall. All of Diana's nerfs this patch were minor, but numerous. As a result, she is slightly weaker than before, but still remains in the S tier. Next up, we got Gragas, and he was nerfed. The reduced damage on his E has unfortunately taken a toll on players. He's a bit weaker than before, but we'll be keeping him in the B tier as he's still a passable pick. His incredible CC and exceptional damage output keep him viable. One more change that we do have to take note for is Kindred. She's got a very nice buff to her Q, and her win rate across all ranks have increased. In high elo, it's worth noting that her win rate has finally broken the 50% mark, and her win rate in elite levels of play sits comfortably above 51%. It's safe to say that Kindred is a strong pick. Her range, mobility, and scaling give her a place in the current meta, but her lower win rates and low elo suggest that the average player would find more success on a less volatile pick. She remains in the A tier for this patch. Next is Trundle, who received a buff to his E slow. His early game buff has led to an increase in his win rates across all ranks. His overall win rate falls short just of 52% this patch, meaning that the buff was, without a doubt, successful. Tank junglers are still rather unpopular, so for now, we'll be leaving Trundle's placement untouched. But, picking him would be not very troll, I don't know. Finally, Kayn has also received buffs from his red form this patch. The slight increase in his damage helped, but not by too much. As a result, we'll be leaving him in the same tier as the beginning of the patch. We've got a few other changes to mention as well. First, Zac is up to the S tier. Although many other tank junglers are struggling at the moment, Zac has been finding more and more success ever since the last patch where he was buffed. His overall win rate has exceeded 52% this patch, and it's also worth noting that Sunfire Aegis was also recently buffed, while Turbo Chem Tank received a nerf this patch. Graves and Viego have been both moved down to the A tier. Over time, these two have started to fall off. Various nerfs have left them weaker than before, and enough time has passed for us to conclude that they should be moved down. The meta has been gradually shifting each patch, and both Graves and Viego don't really impact the games as much as the S tier picks. In Graves' case, he's found a rival in Kindred, and the notorious AP junglers have redefined the face of overpowered in the jungle. Finally, Rammus and Sejuani are now in the B tier. These two champions have also been starting to underperform, likely due to the fact that junglers who can apply heavy pressure early on can bully them out and prevent them from scaling up. For Rammus, the abundance of AP junglers has made it so much more difficult for him to find success. In our OP tier for junglers, we have Elise, Morgana, and Lee Sin. Following them in the S tier are Kha'Zix, Evelynn, Nunu, Ivern, Fiddlesticks, Diana, Shaco, and Zac. Now, for those of you who are trying to improve in the jungle, I also want you guys to check out ProGuides.com. Aside from our courses, you can hit up a coach who'd be more than happy to help you improve and rank up. Make sure you check it out, as you won't regret it. Next up, we have the mid lane. Kicking it off with the mid lane, we'll start talking about Vladimir. After rising up and becoming the strongest mid laner last patch, it was no surprise that he got nerfed this patch. His Q's cooldown was increased slightly, leaving it a little bit lower than where it was before the buffs last patch. However, this nerf has been enough to push him out of the OP tier into the S tier. We're not saying he sucks, literally, because he sucks blood, I think, right? What does he do? He's a vampire, I don't know. Anyway, we're content leaving him in the S tier in the mid-patch update. Next up is Heimerdinger, who received a small nerf to his W. Although his top lane win rate saw a noticeable dip, his mid lane win rate remains rather high. Overall, there's less sustain and also less effective health in the mid lane, so poke damage sticks on harder. As both a mid laner and a bot laner, Heimerdinger still remains a powerful pick in spite of these nerfs, and we pushed him in his placement down to the A tier. As our analysts expected, the Xerath buffs did a lot. His overall win rate went up by a whole %, and for now, we're okay leaving him in the A tier. There's no doubt that he's a risky pick, but he was made much more rewarding this patch as a result of the increased AP ratios that he received. Our OP picks for the mid lane are Zed, Katarina, and Yasuo. Followed up by them in the S tier are Pantheon, Victor, Talon, Annie, Galio, Fizz, Echo, Kiana, Viego, Diana, Ahri, Yone, LeBlanc, Kassadin, Sylas, Anivia, and Vladimir. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the bottom lane. While there weren't that many changes in the bottom lane, we did see a notable bug fix for Jinx. Her rocket form was dealing an unintended amount of bonus damage, and even though it was fixed this patch, she remains a top tier pick. Her high damage output at all stages of the game, as well as incredible scaling, make her an unreliable solo queue carry. In high and low elo alike, Jinx is currently a contested and popular pick. As a result, she is still an OP pick for this update. Kog'Maw received a small buff to his Q, Shred, and his Ease mana cost for this patch. Unfortunately, this hasn't resulted in any significant changes yet, so we'll be leaving him in the B tier for now. As more popular marksmen receive nerfs, we expect Kog'Maw to rise up to power in the future. But honestly, all I think that they need to do is just to change his passive, so you're not rewarded for inting. You should be rewarded for positioning, right? Anyway, the rest of the tier list remains untouched, with Jinx and Samira in the OP tier, followed up by Tristana, Kai'Sa, Ezreal, Ashe, Vayne, Jhin, Seraphine, Swain, and Sivir in the S tier. Finally, let's conclude with the supports. Are you this next pick that we're going to be talking about? Because you are dazzling. Let's talk about Taric. His Q's mana cost was reduced this patch, but so far his win rate hasn't increased at all. While the buff obviously means that he's stronger than before, Taric hasn't managed to move up and still remains in the B tier this patch. Unfortunately, he'll need more than a mana cost buff in order to see a significant difference in his gameplay. Regardless, he's still stunning. Finally, Lulu had her W buff this patch. The cooldown was slightly reduced and the bonus attack speed increased early in the game as well. As Lulu was already a solid pick, she remains in the OP tier for this change. Even in high elo and less popular regions, Lulu has gained popularity and is a favorite amongst players across all servers now. Our OP picks for supports are Leona, Thresh, Senna, and Lulu, followed up by Bard, Morgana, Nautilus, Blitzcrank, and Maokai in the S tier. That will be concluding our mid-patch update for patch 11.9. We really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment down below for our question of the day. Also, we have a link to our Discord in the description, so make sure you check that out. We'll catch you guys in our next video, but until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.